Marla gave me the map.
I'm not
So I
sure.
made a copy
They
for
were
them
there at our
of the
building
farm.
from until Christmas.
Anybody's
Then when
interested?
Beecher Rec comes, then I think they go to the
Marla gave me the
elementary, I
map.
believe.
So I made a copy for people.
I just thought it was Beecher Rec.
That's the map of the farm.
I've just got Ethan here, I thought it was here between 7 and 8:30.
See, I want to say it's at the elementary because now Beecher Rec is practicing every night in the junior high.
For basketball, right?
Correct.
Which ones these guys over here?
So May,
They want soccer.
Yeah, it's sort of like a junior high indoor stuff.
yeah.
They rent it out like facilities,
Yep.
it's just a community usage
Yep, fantastic.
thing.
Oh,
Yep. But I think it's at the
I was hoping
elementary.
that would happen.
A little bit. Let's go, Graham.
Pricey. I could have won that. Yes, that is. Sorry about that.
Beecher High School den entered the locker room.
So they came down today.
Well, if he doesn't come back.
Mr. Knox. You're hilarious.
Is that yours or hers?
It's a picture.
Don't get those on your clothes.
It is.
I want to get,
Don't get the George Carlin or yeah, no, because there's we just get the regular ones because I think we do those and then of course my kids can't get anything without everything all over.
I mean, I paid for
It's hard to get off.
I thought you were saying you leave your car and wear it there.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
Just wanna make sure you
And
know
he's got
what
your sticker in the
the
window.
downfalls of that.
Rise for the
And you could
pledge.
like, give it a quarter of it and said, you know, here's $30.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone appears to be here. Approval of the executive session meeting minutes of December 10th, 2018. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Weissel,
Yes.
Hallmeyer,
Yes.
Palmisano,
Yes.
Goldberg,
Yes.
Strumenti,
Yes.
Missouri,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
motion carried.
Approval of the regular and executive session meeting minutes of January 14th, 2019. Motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Hallmeyer,
Yes.
Palmisano,
Yes.
Goldberg,
Yes.
Strumenti,
Yes.
Missouri,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Weissel,
Yes.
motion carried.
And approval of the February 2019 expenses, and you do have some additional bills. Any questions? Need a motion?
I
Yes.
have a question about the total roofing construction. I'm trying to find it, sorry. Oh, no, I passed it, sorry.
Page 6.
There.
Page 6.
There we go. Thank you.
6 or 11?
Emergency roof repair over music room.
Oh.
That wasn't the one we just had over the polar vortex, was it?
We didn't.
No.
Because
No,
didn't we
no,
have a
didn't- We
pipe?
didn't have of the leaks that we had, that was not one of them, no.
Okay, all right. So did we have to call somebody out for the pipe burst at the junior high and here?
Yes,
Okay, all right, so this,
totally unrelated.
okay. All right, Kirby. Okay, that was it.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Okay, Palmisano,
Yes.
Goldberg,
Yes.
Strumenti,
Yes.
Missouri,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Weissel,
Yes.
Hallmeyer,
Yes.
motion carried.
Treasurer's report. Mike?
All right, exciting times. Balance in the Super Now account at month end, January 31st, was $1,753,485.86. Outstanding checks, excuse me, total $13,874.41, leaving the adjusted bank balance at $1,739,611.45. Lunch program balance was $19,861.26. Impressed fund of $5,000, leaving the total bank balance at $1,764,472.71. The investment balances as of the end of January were $11,626,491.84, leaving the balance of all funds as of January 31st at $13,390,964.55. January receipts were $316,114.38. Expenses were $840,716.23. The individual fund balances, education fund, $8,247,732.26. The building fund, $1,832.61. Bond and interest, $34,871.57. Transportation fund, $1,352,136.88. IMRF, $24,800.06. Working cash, $2,353,227.50. The tort fund balance, $141,944.51, and life safety finished at $235,419.16. January interest at First Community was $1956.71. The interest rate did go above 1% in January, so it's been a while since we've seen that, so just wanted to point that out. The state of Illinois made several distributions in January. State aid, $164,169.52. Special ed private facility, $2,748.07. State free lunch, $106.60. School lunch, $19,769.14. Special milk, $13.02. Special ed transportation, $37,631.63, and regular transportation of $57,530.70. There were no real estate distributions in January. And balances are in the packet.
The previous page mentioned the kind of 1.3 million of the transportation fund. Is there a standard outflow that, like, oh, you know, every February we have to put 500,000 to something? Is there anything, because you know we're going to talk about buses later on, I'm just trying to kind of frame myself, money available and stuff.
No, there's not. Typically, buses are your big expenditure, and those are typically done early summer.
Okay.
And we have not made any determinations for that for next year.
Okay, is that like a use it or lose it thing? Like that's, well, I shouldn't say lose it, but is it kind of a good idea to have put that down to a lower amount by like June 30th, the end of the fiscal year that way?
It's not so much how much money you have, it's what shape your buses are in. That's the driving factor. It's not that money's gonna go away.
But as we talk about the buses, that's a healthy amount. I'm seeing the 1.3 million.
Yes, it could be a lot worse, for sure.
Okay.
Thanks. You know, and when we look at these things, we always try to put them in 12-month cycles. So we look at where we were total funds in reserve this exact moment in time last year, and this year in comparison, we're $603,000 better than that. So in the last 12 calendar months, as a district, we've put $603,000 in the bank. So that's a positive.
That is a positive, but as the fleet ages,
Get you at some point.
I know we're gonna talk about it later.
Any questions for Mike? Need a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded by Karen.
Okay, Goldberg,
Yes.
Scramenti,
Yes.
Mazurik,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Weissel,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Palmisano.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I see no one seeking the floor. Why don't we move Mr. Gardner up? Give you a chance to leave if you'd like.
Oh, come on now. Where would you like me to address the board, or is this?
That's fine.
You're fine?
And again, I think I'm here just to give a brief overview of the community involvement, or, installation of the playground at the elementary school. I'll go through a real quick presentation, but mainly leave it open for questions and whatever kind of other information you'd like to add to, or like you to pass along. Typically, when we do community installations or community builds, we call them, a playground this size would be approximately a 2-day build. The first day would be spent with me and probably about two to five people laying out where the holes would go, also digging the holes. So the first day is more preparation. The second day is when the larger group of volunteers would be there, probably between 25 and 30. And probably a playground this size, we probably can get this built probably within 5 to 6 hours. There's different stages that we would go along. That group of 25 to 30 people would be broken down into different groups. Some pre-assembly, some actually installation, and some just kind of coordinating some other things like that. Once the build is completed, I do perform a final inspection of everything to make sure everything's installed per manufacturer specifications, and then that way the warranties are all in force and all in good shape that way. The surfacing then would actually go in. Again, I think that's typically gets done in a couple different ways. Sometimes it's actually at the end of the day of the build. Other times that's where sometimes there's more kids can be involved with some of the actually bringing in the surfacing with wheelbarrows and tarps and things like that. So a little bit of the surfacing sometimes gets done a little bit differently, maybe a day or so afterwards, just because there can be that many more younger kids can be involved there. We don't really want anybody under the age of 18 there during the day of the build, just because there is some, and the machinery that you have, there's possibly a cement mixer that can be electric cement mixer going around, some drill bits, some power cordless drills and things like that. There's no major, we don't need bobcats and stuff like that the day of the build. And that's why we do the whole installation, or the whole layout the day before, because that's when we have the augers there and stuff like that, that we would, it's best to kind of stay away from having a lot of people out there. So that, in a nutshell, is what the community build would be. We haven't really set up a date yet or anything like that, but again, typically I'm out. We'll try. The one thing that's a requirement really is I want to be out there to be there, so we kind of work around that type of scheduling. But usually a Friday, Saturday works out the best. The equipment usually gets delivered on the Friday beforehand, so it's not laying out on site, for weeks on end and things like that. So we try to keep it as short of a time period as we can. Now, that was a really quick overview. Now, I'm sure if there's more details or more specifics, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
So do you do removal of the old stuff, or how is that handled?
We do not do the removal of the old stuff. Now, we can work with the groups and figure out how to get that completed. And again, I think there is a group that's out there that, if it's, we can work with regards to the removal. Most of that time, especially the age of the existing equipment, is probably more just gets removed and discarded. There's sometimes, if it's a playground equipment between 12 and 20 years old, there is a group that will come and remove it and then kind of work to to a different country and things like that. But I think the equipment that's out at the school right now is probably older than that, so it's probably something that.
And should that be done like a week before your scheduled date, or what's the timeline there?
There's no magic date. Again, a week before, and kind of leaves it so there's enough flexibility with dates and if it's rain and stuff like that. So that'd be the wise thing, yes.
Okay.
And is there a ballpark date? I mean, is this happening in the spring, summer?
That's a good
After
question. So with
school?
board approval, then what do you need to move on this then? What realistically do you look for?
From the order of the equipment to actually delivery of the equipment is 4 weeks. So from that standpoint, I think we'd want to work with the school in whatever way it works out to be. It can be done in the spring. I would say anytime really after the months of April, is
Freeze.
fine.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to do anything, the middle part of March or anything like that, but,
Right.
again, we can work with that. The removal of the equipment then would become more, valuable, the timing issue, to make sure if it's done during the school year, we get things as close to timing as we can. But we have done things on Fridays and Saturdays during the school year also.
So the spring break is probably a little early or not?
When
Your
is
spring break is
break?
April,
It's
so
before the week
April.
before Easter.
so you're looking at,
15.
yes.
And again, something like that could be done, but again, at the same time, you want to make sure that volunteers are around and people that are interested in doing this.
At least the kids wouldn't be using it for 4
I
days.
think logistically on our end, we're looking at June.
Okay, okay.
So
The other
after,
thing
so
is-
after the school year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Otherwise you
really,
lose the reason,
the
yeah.
other thing is, once the playground's installed, really within 6 hours, kids can play on it right away. So that, it's when the surfacing comes into play. And that's why there is that opportunity really to have wood chips, stored up, and then as the playground is completed, wood chips can be brought in and kids can be playing on it that Saturday night even. So it's nothing where, the only thing that would be a requirement of 24, 48 hours would be independent posts and swings that were on their own independent type pieces. But I think we're talking mainly about a composite structure here, so that works out fine that way.
It might tie in real nicely to the run you guys were talking about putting up in June anyway, just make it one big party, you never know.
Yeah, that's going to be, right now, more towards fall.
Oh, okay.
The beginning of the
Yeah.
school year.
Okay.
I can do a playground, but I won't do a run.
Like the Spartan game, just kidding.
What is the color run?
Other questions? No, thank you for those questions. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Take your
coming out.
time.
Very
Drive
good.
carefully.
Answered my insurance question.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
The first thing that I would like to discuss is you should have a copy of, I believe this document was originally put together in November.
Just in response to last night.
So I received an email with a request to go over again some of the pieces from our December levy. And so just to kind of work through this document, make sure you ask any questions if you have them. But on the first page, if we look at the December 16 levy, the bottom number there on that page, it turned out that our tax rate ended up being, total tax rate being $6.98. You go to December 17, the next page over, look all the way at the bottom again. Turned out that our tax rate turned out to be $6.86. That decline in tax rate was a function of the fact that from one year to the next, the total amount of tax dollars that were collected remained the same. So the EAV went up, total amount of tax dollars stayed the same. And so according to that math equation, then by default, the rate has to go down. So then we would look at the work that was done 2 months ago in December, which is the back page. Once again, the EAV is increasing. The aggregate levy, which is that first line, so the aggregate levy is going to be the levy in all the funds with the exception of debt service, the bonds that we're repaying. Okay. So that aggregate levy, the amount collected went up by $200,000 because of the EAV growth, but the EAV and new construction growth was actually happened at a larger rate than our CPI, the Consumer Price Index of 2.1%. So we weren't able to actually capture all of that money. So then again, by default, the aggregate rate dropped by 9 cents. The other part of our levy is that debt service. The year before, our debt service was only, put that in quotes, only $1.867 million. That's going up another $146,000. So this next round of debt service will be over $2 million in the next year. So that increase of $146,000 is in debt service. That actually caused the debt service rate to increase by a nickel. So when you look at the two together, you're looking at an increase in revenue of $346,000 and an overall decline in the tax rate, which, as a taxpayer, is the number I look at,
Right.
a 4-cent drop in tax rate. So that would be at least 2 consecutive years of a decrease in tax rate, which is obviously a positive.
So this is still a projection, we haven't received our EAV yet.
These are the numbers, the EAV numbers as given by the county on their projection. We don't know what those final numbers are until April, when they start running tax bills that are due in May. So in the middle of April, we will get what our actual extension is. Remember, the levy is what you think you're going to collect, the extension is what you actually do.
So I voted against this because you were asking for $200,000 more, and I didn't think that we needed it. I thought we were bringing in plenty of money, so that was why. And I didn't explain it the last vote because I had explained it 2 more times before that. So that's what I did. And it's still just a projection, and it seems like that's going to be high. That EAV is, what was it, increased $6 million? So we'll see. We'll see that in April.
Okay.
Well, and I don't know who asked you, but
I did not.
But I appreciate, because
I did.
I'm just, okay,
I did,
good.
yes.
Because at the forum last night,
'Cause we were
just for,
talking
if
about
you guys
that, yeah.
weren't there, someone came up upset with the 4 of us that we had raised their taxes. And we're all like, no, we
didn't.
we lowered the tax rate. They were looking at taxes collected, saying that, well, no, you had increased it by $300,000, and we were saying, no, we raised it, we lowered the tax rate. Okay, so I mean, to me, this answers the question.
Yeah, and
Right.
really the right way to respond to that is, as a school district, as a taxing body, we are one of, and now granted, the majority of, but we are one of the taxing bodies that help set the rate. Now, if for some reason, Mr. Property Owner, if for some reason your property is increasing in value, well, good for you. I mean, that's a positive,
Right.
As a homeowner, I like that.
I like that when the value of my home goes up.
So
The down part is that the value of my home goes up, then I have to pay more taxes. And so that's the catch-22. So we control the rate part of that equation. And to respond and say that 2 years in a row, the school total tax rate has gone down, that's 100% accurate.
You're projecting that. We don't know.
Well, the previous 2 years it did.
The previous year before.
Previous
it
year
did.
before.
1 year, okay. Yeah.
That's when we voted for no increase in funds. That's when it went down.
So any other questions about that levy from 2 months ago? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Also wanted to make sure everybody was up to speed with the 4 days that we've been out. That's now changed this current year's calendar. We're now looking at being in session April 22nd, which I affectionately refer to as Travel Monday after Easter. Also, Friday, May 3rd, we'll be in session. Also, Friday, May 24th, we will be in session. And also, June 6th, which I think is a Thursday.
So that June 6th will be then the last day of school.
Okay, if we don't have any more
Snow days.
Now, the caveat to that is, we can only use 1 more.
Right.
Okay, 5's the limit. Once you go past 5, you no longer make them up. Okay? That doesn't mean that if we have 1 more, I'm going to start calling them left and right either. No. So, in the worst case scenario, then June 7th would be the last student attendance day that Friday. But as
Except
it
for
stands-
seniors, though.
What's that?
Except for seniors.
Except for seniors, right.
Eighth grade.
Okay.
Because
In
they,
8th grade too, correct?
Now, will
In 8th grade,
this
too.
will not
That's
affect
correct.
graduation or anything of the sort?
Promotion and graduation dates will stay the same.
What is the senior's last day?
May,
Eight,
I
no,
I think it's the 18th, 19th.
Okay.
Setting Q&A day.
I do know that I've been asked to relay that it would be appreciated if this would be put into some sort of website or flyer home or something.
Actually, I was going to do a blog on it later in the week.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
So I had written you an email about when we were starting some e-learning and then all of a sudden it was in there, so that's great, you're right on top of it.
Yeah, and
Seeing
so,
if we can-
yeah, and so great transition, Carla. I was actually going to take a minute to talk about e-learning. I know that, that some other school districts are starting to implement e-learning days in a variety of ways and shapes and forms. Something that we've had internal conversations on a little bit as an organization. As we start to move forward with some technology initiatives, I think that some of those e-learning days become more and more a possibility. The important thing is that at the end of the day, if you're going to have an e-learning day, it has to have the same content and rigor as if the kids were actually here. And so we're not going to do this just to do it. When we get to a point where we know we can do it well and our kids will benefit almost or as much as if they were physically here, then we'll be able to move forward with this. I'm cautiously optimistic that come next winter, we'll be a lot closer to the possibility of implementing a day or two.
And he had a really good answer. I written him and I said, I know of a school district where they were just doing an assignment and that was counting as a day. And I sent it to him and he sent back and he said, but that's not the rigor that we're looking for. And I happened to be looking back on Erie stuff and where it came from. You got 2 out of 3 exemplary status on your report card from last year. So that's pretty impressive. I think you only get like 10% of the schools that do that.
And I appreciate that, but it very much is in line with the sentiment that the board has implemented in their goals. I think one of the things that we are recognizing as an organization, as a community, is that we want to make sure that everything we do very well.
Right, absolutely.
And so sometimes that takes longer to get done. Sometimes that means involving more people. Sometimes it means paying more. But, since I was this tall, my mom always said, things that you do with your might. Things done by halves are seldom done right. And so we're going to do this well, and our kids and our community are going to benefit. And so with e-learning, we're going to take our time, we're going to do it right, and everybody's going to benefit.
Right now, there's a bill in the state senate, they're trying to take, because they took away the 5-hour rule, they're trying to put it back in, that you have 5 hours in the classroom, so keep an eye on that with the e-learning.
It does take a certain amount of staff training too to do it right, so we have to have those resources obviously in there.
Tremendous amount of training.
And I've seen some schools that will, once a month, they do it anyway, just to have the trial run, they just know the last Friday of the month is the e-learning day and you don't come to school, but you're going to be doing it at home. That way, when the snow hits, it's already happened. You've already done it, you know exactly what you're doing. So you work into the
But also with an e-learning day, does everybody have access to the internet at home?
It's that or a packet. I've also seen
Or
schools
on
open
my house, you
up.
don't have a crummy day.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm
The internet shut you down, I see what you're
just,
saying.
if you have no power, you
Well,
have no internet.
Right, and so like I said, all of
Good
those
sell.
are a part of this future conversation that
Right.
we're going to be working
Right.
our way through.
Right.
So,
And handle that actually open the schools regardless, just so you can come to the library if that was you. But I mean,
any other questions for me? So as we continue to invite other leaders from our organization to come and present and have conversation with the school board, I've asked Jerry Gordon to come and have conversation and talk a little bit about us, in particular, the opportunities that some of our kids have for off-site placements. And so, Mrs. Gordon.
That brings us to, I'm going to pass out some paperwork first. Feel free to share with your neighbors. I'm good.
I did too.
We just go that way and then Mrs. Weissel can start this way and just take one orange and one yellow.
Oh, wrong one. Thanks.
I know.
Karen, I got these real flyers from last night.
When you get the orange brochure, what I'd like just to cover mainly in there is that the first page that has, when you open up the brochure, the educational options, placement options. And I'm sorry if I'm boring anybody if you know all this, but I'm going to go slow. Thank you for having me. I can't remember the last time, well, I can. It's probably about a good 7 or 8 years ago since I've been here, maybe
No, you
less.
were here with Mr. McCartney.
Yeah, you were here, we were doing something for one of the committees.
Good, I feel better.
But, yeah.
Let's talk about it.
All righty. When it comes time, when we have an IEP meeting, the state absolutely says, you must look at this and you must decide what's the best educational placement for your students. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, 99% of the time, it's our home district. It's a program that we have right here on our grounds. You're going to say, well, what programs do we have? We have our EC program, and then we have resource and instructional, that does the instructional within there. So most of our students are able to. But when they have that unique learning style, that's the time where we have to think, where can they learn the best? So, and the state will come in and they're going to make sure that we are giving our kids the best service close to home so they are with their peers. And it can't happen all the time. So the first option we have, for some kids when we have an IEP, it's going to be general education with no service. Believe it or not, there are some kids that just have some accommodations, modifications through the day, and that's all they need. Not too often, though. General aid, general ed, and then they'll have supplemental aids and services. Maybe they need social work. They need a behavior plan. That's also an option. Then we could also give them resource services throughout the day, and that looks different. It could be instruction. It could be come in just for like 20 minutes to a half hour, some special help in reading and math. That too. But what happens that I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about, which will be on that yellow sheet of paper, it's mostly a separate type of programming, and that's within our co-op, which is Southerville County Cooperative for Special Education. And that programming is more intense, for lack of a better word, if you guys have any questions. But then what happens is residential, where we actually have students that go to a place and they live there, even on the weekends, where they can come home. And they get their education, and they live there, and then also hospital and homebound. And believe it or not, that's more often than you think. If a child is hospitalized, they can't come back to school, then we provide homebound tutoring. Does anybody have any questions about those?
Just earlier, are there any co-taught, do we do any co-taught classes right now?
Yes, we do, especially at the high school, and I can't say that, also at the junior high and at the elementary.
Any what eds?
I was saying the co-taught classes with the special ed
Oh,
teachers in
okay,
the room.
all right, thank
The
you.
entire period, basically, or most of it anyway.
And I really think that benefits the kids the most, and it's having that ability, though, to get the teacher in there. And we have some fantastic aides, too, that can go in and help. So, with that in mind, I just want to talk about Fisher School. And I know when you look at a special ed bill, you say that's a big chunk of the budget. But basically, the nice part about belonging to that co-op is that cost is shared among all the districts. And it's going to depend year to year, even like during the year. If that class has 10 students, it's divided up by 10. If it goes down to 5, the cost of that program is divided by 5. So it's, easy to do the math that way. Fisher School, it was named after Joe Fisher, who was the director of SOIC at one point in time. That's our therapeutic school, kindergarten through 8th grade. And it is intensive as far as behavior goes, and they have gasoline alley every day. They try to make their points. Class size 6 to 8. They are basically escorted throughout the building. They'll go to the restroom even one at a time. They have a chart, and the principal at the therapeutic school says to the parents, That shark comes home rain or shine. If there's an earthquake, it might not come home. But basically, parents buy into that. They know it's coming home. They sign off on it. They look at the points. The interesting one that I find the most fascinating, whenever I go to a meeting, I have to stop in the classrooms to see our kids, is the CAB program. And that has early childhood within it. And I know that Mr. Cox said, why do we have all these kids out at early child all day? That's because their needs require an all-day program. They either have autism, for sure that it's diagnosed, or right now it looks like it's autism, but they haven't quite figured it out. Mostly those children do not have communication, so they learn communication. They get ready to learn, how to sit, how to look at a book. I mean, all those things that we take for granted as parents, that's what they learn how to do. And the growth that you see in the younger students is amazing. The early childhood program I do have listed here as C is we do not send any of our students out for an early childhood program because we're fortunate to run one here. But that's always good to know. The life skills program right now, we don't have that many students. Those are students with an intellectual disability. So that means that they need a lot of repetition. I went to one meeting and Mom was there and she was at the school and she says, this is the first time I didn't cry at a meeting because her child was placed correctly. And I started crying at that because I know as a parent it's hard to sit and listen if you're just going to continue to tell you, these can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do this. Where they finally are instructed at a level that they need, and you hear, he's doing this, A, B, and C. So, at this place, we celebrate being in first grade and knowing 5 letters. That's what we celebrate. And we have to remember to do that. The high school at Wilmington, that big new high school, they also have the ELS program. Right now we have 3 students there. Now remember, the Educational Life Skills Program at Wilmington, we educate through an IEP if the student needs it, kids up until their 22nd birthday. So at that point in time, that's when they start working. When they graduate with 4 years, they move on to transition. Can't say enough about that program either because they have an actual department. They bring in $10 every week. They collect the money, they make a plan, they go shopping, they make their lunches. So they incorporate all those learning and life skills. They have a partnership, I believe it's with Joliet Junior College. They also have the subsidiary. I should probably bring brochures at Christmas time. They make soap, they market, and they produce it, and they sell it. The apartments, so they learn how to do their laundry. They even, I believe, have like a shower, so if the students need self-help skills there, they also work with that. And the SOIC Education Center, I'm happy to report, we do not have anybody there at this time. That program, we have in the past though, when we needed it, and that's more intensive behavior and therapeutic support at the high school level. So that kind of sums up where we're at with our SOIC programs. I think they're excellent. I can't say enough about them. Does anybody have any questions?
You might have said it. And those high school, beyond high school programs, are they out in the work sites
Yes.
also?
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's where they, let me exactly look, they use Lincoln Way Special Rec. They have an agreement with them. Of course, DHS, they have job sites that they have job coaches.
Okay.
So it's pretty impressive.
So, we see the bills come through, they talk about the money there. I know the funds go in different spots, so just roughly, for an even good number, if we saw something for $10,000,
Okay.
how much of that is part of the normal state reimbursement anyway, and how much of it is?
That I don't know, I'd have to get back to you. So you're saying if I saw a bill for.
Like if I saw Camelot $10,000, because we see this stuff come through all the time. I'm just wondering, because it looks like expenditure everywhere. But then
Right.
somewhere else we have something that says, oh, and here's the special ed
And here's
funding
the
coming in.
special reimbursement
So
coming
it's
in.
not like how much does it truly affect anything? Probably not that much, really, by the time the reimbursement comes in, or how would you
I would
answer
have to
that?
ask Mr. Roslin that, I should say
Okay.
Dr. Roslin now.
Okay.
He's the director of SOIC. I wouldn't want to mislead you.
Okay.
I see a special education coordinator, Ms. Gordon. I appreciate the information here. I just have 2 questions for you. One, are we fully staffed here to handle special education here at the school
Right
district?
now, yes.
At the district? And 2, are we being funded properly for it here?
We're being funded properly, it's just a matter of, I don't think the state is, but don't get me started on that.
Are we budgeting correctly? Are we budgeting correctly?
Yes, I
That
mean,
works out,
and
yeah.
we know what's going out, basically, but a lot of times we have surprises. I had 2 students move in, you know, that no one would have expected.
And these are good programs matched to the right kids on there too. I think the downside you hear about is just how long someone's on the bus heading out to some of
And
these
that
places.
is, and that's the hardest part, especially when you look at that CAB program for those little ones. I don't think we could ever replicate that
Right.
program that is there, and that's
If-
the unfortunate part.
If we said, hey, you know what, we got a room, we're willing to fund whatever we needed to, what would be like the one class we might have enough that would be a place to start thinking about bringing back?
It couldn't be the CAB program, because
Right.
you would need at least 2 to 3 rooms for that, and then you'd probably have like 2, maybe 1 student in 1 room, like 3 in another, because of the ages. And plus, you wouldn't want to hire a behavior interventionist, you wouldn't want to do an OT, a PT, a social worker, and speech, thank you, for just that, for that group of students. One class that we possibly, I think we would probably look at this, but it would take planning. It would be for some kids that I think possibly down the line, they're in the early grades now, that it might be good to keep them here rather than, but we would need a new teacher for that.
Like an opening of a self-contained classroom somewhere?
Exactly.
At the elementary?
A cross-cat type of thing. We would want to start there.
And so this really bleeds over into a later conversation, but if it's all right, can we have it now, Mr. President?
Sure.
Is that all right with you? And so I know that at the board level, we talked about the CAB program in particular, and we have a large number of students there. Is that something we could bring back on site? And as we've continued to have conversations internally, it's just really not it's just not logistically possible. Well, everything's logistically possible if you throw enough money at it. But from a standpoint of being cost effective, from a standpoint of, like Mrs. Gordon said, being able to replicate the program and get those students the services that they need, that program becomes very problematic because you're looking at multiple classrooms, you're looking at multiple teachers, you're looking at multiple one-on-one aides on top of the things that we just mentioned with OT, PT, and speech and a variety of things, and pretty soon it becomes very problematic. But one of the things that we really think we could benefit some students, that really could benefit some of our students, is this type of in-house, cross-categorical program at the elementary school that would, as these students, obviously, if they're off-site, our goal is to get them back. And if they're on-site and they continue to have needs that are greater than what we can handle, we want to be able to service them and keep them on-site as long as possible. And so what we've had conversations about, Mrs. Gordon, Mrs. Black, and myself, is coming up with a transitional program that would do just that. That would allow us to keep kids longer and would allow us to get kids back sooner. Now, we're not talking about, we're probably talking about a program that at the end of the day impacts 5 or 6 kids. But if we can keep 5 or 6 kids from being off-site and being on a bus an hour each way and going through all of that, I really think that would be a program that we should explore. And at the end of the day, when you start to do that math, if we get 1 kid back a semester early and we delay 1 kid from going off campus a semester, that program very quickly pays for itself.
Right.
And so I think that we're very excited about having continued conversations about having that program as early as August of this next school year.
Great.
So we're going to segue right into that. Sorry.
How often is it that, say, a student receives an intervention or support of having all their tests read to them, say in first or second grade, and they're still getting that in 8th grade?
Oh, it's a lot. It truly is.
So what's not working there?
Put that in the IEP, okay? If I say this child is going to have, we say as a team, let me put that a better way. I have no power, but once we decide that, we need to follow through on that. So we look at that very closely and make sure it is that's what the student needs. Because especially by junior high school, they're almost better. They'll take the test being read. They'll take that alternate site. But junior high is a hard year. So we do measure that. And they do
Okay, yearly?
Pardon?
Yearly?
Oh, yes. It's
Okay.
part of that annual review
All right.
process. So yearly it is.
All right, and then I know we have some students that are in the program who are receiving medical. And I've been trying to, for a year now, I know you've had a lot on your plate. I've talked to you about this before. I would like an absolute breakdown. The children that are receiving these supports along with the medical, I would like to see where the money is being spent on administration, the medical, and the actual intervention for the student. Because I want to make sure that the money that we are spending and or being reimbursed for is being spent on that student and the medical. If it involves nurses, if it involves equipment, and I don't want to see the bulk of that money going to the administration. I want it being spent on the child, the student, the nurse, if a nurse is involved, and the medical equipment.
I can see you're trying, I don't know. If
I
you
know,
have it
I'm trying to
broken
come
that
up.
way. I
and
know ours isn't.
It doesn't get broken up that way.
But I know what you want.
But I know what you're saying. So I'm trying to think, if I look at that program, I know exactly. So do I look at, and I could probably say, okay, how much is that program coordinator? What's her salary, what are her benefits, and divide it up that way. Mr. Roslin may be able to do something like that.
Or a percent of what is going to the child?
What?
A percentage?
Yeah,
Or perhaps the duties of the paraprofessionals sometimes. I mean, those are funded through various, special education funding.
okay.
But if they're, correct me where I'm wrong here, if the paraprofessional's duties end up being a significant part not in special ed, then things get a little hairy.
Okay,
I mean, I have a feeling that might be part of what you're talking about too, like the money comes in for the student who's supposed to have classroom aid so many minutes, but if the classroom aide is helping a different classroom or helping at recess duty or something instead.
well, maybe not so
and
much that.
I'm not accusing it all of where
No,
it is,
I know
I'm just
what
saying
you're
things
saying.
that
I
I've
know we
seen.
have some students who have medical equipment,
Mhm.
and there's nurses involved. So I'd like to see the bulk of any money spent or reimbursed going towards that nurse, providing that medical care, and our interventions.
Well, that's all the nurse is allowed to do is for that one, for one student.
And I'd like to see the bulk of the money going towards that than administration costs.
Okay, I think I'm following you now. So it's the nursing thing that we're really looking at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we can definitely put those numbers together.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
And since we're kind of on this topic, I saw a lot of nodding heads, but I just want to make sure. So do we have kind of the board's blessing to move down this path to look at a transitional program and bring a proposal maybe to the board in about April or so to see exactly what that would look like?
As long as it's planned out, thought out well, and any savings is reinvested back into that program, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, like from facility, like where the facility would be.
I don't want to take some kids from where they're getting top-notch.
Right,
And bring them back because we're going to save money.
right.
I hope that money that we save is reinvested in Ms. Gordon.
program.
The program, and those children
From
because,
STEM to
And
STEM.
get the same service here as they are
yes.
there.
And almost by definition, they're gonna get an extra hour a day of services because they're not having a butts on a
I just
Right.
want
bus.
the,
I mean,
Right.
you know,
They're
it'll
gonna get an
be-
extra hour of sleep. is what they're
Well, that
gonna
too,
get.
yeah.
Well, we have to give them the same amount of service
Yeah,
Right.
that the other students get, but they won't have that long bus ride.
yeah. it'll be-
So you're looking at like one class of maybe 5 students or something like that? Is that what we're looking at, or?
That's
Tentatively.
tentatively,
Tentatively, because those numbers will fluctuate all the time.
Right.
all the time.
Because there's
That's
other
the thing.
classes, like of 1 student, that's not even good for the student. They don't have anybody.
No,
I mean,
they don't have anybody to bounce ideas off
Right.
of or anything.
Right,
So it's better if you have about 5 or 6 in there.
yeah.
It would appear so.
Thank you. Much
well thought out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
I'm just thinking like, in my head, I'm thinking a teacher aide, we think of a little bit more speech, all those things, we just have to cost factor it out.
Okay, and those are probably through SOIC, and the speeches and those.
Mike, you're up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gordon.
Did we get that? Instructional minutes thing?
Thank you. I got a couple things. Our basketball team's boys are finished. Our volleyball team has done a pretty good job so far. Both are 10 and 2. 7th grade was second at the Canwill, and our 8th grade was first. Our academic teams are starting now as well. So the spelling team, the Scholastic Bowl team, and our math team is starting. Math went to Moments last week, and Scholastic Bowl and spelling are going to be in, I think it's March when we start those competitions. So we've got the individual names in here. I'm passing around some art pictures from Mrs. Bluen, because I think last year I didn't have any examples, and so when you read in her section, they talk about the 7th grade, and that is the color wheel, how to shape and highlight letters of their names out of objects. So I think that's Ayla Frainer, I think that's hers, using whatever utensils to spell her particular name. And then the 6th grade, the 3-dimensional flag, utilizing line and shading to create illusions. You see that W in the middle. The project includes optical illusions, 3-dimensional drawings, and pencil control with shading. And it deals with it deals with President's Day and patriotism, so it's perfect timing. So I'm glad art happened to be this month, and so she gave me a couple items to share. Our science department and Mr. Stanula did an energy audit. We're doing that, which has been great the last couple of years because we got a grant. And one of the examples that Mrs. Granisey, Mr. Martowitz gave is the library. That really, truly, we have too much, I don't want to say too much light, that's not, too many light fixtures in the library because the natural light is so positive in there. And she said, she had some of the numbers, but I didn't bring those because I didn't understand all of them, and not to say that you probably would understand everything, but I didn't want to bore you with some of the statistics, but she does have that information if you're really looking at what 2 classrooms I think needed more light, but the library was very good and the hallways are good. So we like to keep on top of that. Mr. Snula did a great job of going around the building with these. I think we had 18 8th graders, 18 or 21 that participated in this audit. So we do a pretty good job at the junior high overall, is what she said. PSAT, we did that a couple weeks ago. Hopefully we'll get those results back in the spring. We're going to do another wonderful test tomorrow. It's called the NAEP. We're doing that tomorrow. I'll give you some information on that next month. And that's all I have.
I thought that art write-up was really good. It really was incorporating a lot of like math skills and the art. I thought it was really good. I noted that.
Thank you. Nope, she does well. She does well. Yes, sir?
I do have some questions in regards, but I think we're going to go into that discipline and policy.
You bet.
So I will speak with you on that at that point.
Absolutely, no problem.
Thank you.
Is your office restored?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no more leaks, it's wonderful. Now we just got to kind of, I think there's one piece left, I think it's,
Okay.
I know I messed this up, actuator, is that the right piece? Mr. Cox, is that the, I think there's one piece Mr. Joe has to, Giannotti has to put on, but otherwise,
Oh, okay.
I think we're
All
good.
right, groovy.
I think we're good.
Did you lose all your papers?
No,
No?
so, it was great. Angel did a great job, secretaries,
There was a
they
lot
did
of
they did a
fights.
phenomenal job. I'm just glad that it wasn't 5 minutes later, because Mr. Cox and I were walking back to my office to talk, and someone would have been probably right under the 150-degree hot water coming racing from the
It
ceiling.
happened right over the chair that I sit in.
You would have. And I didn't do that on purpose, there was no reason for that.
Right? I'll put that in your evaluation.
Mike. Suspicious.
Yeah.
Mrs. Black, thank you.
All right. Couple of points to highlight. We gained 2 students.
Third grade?
Third grade.
No. So we're up to 444 students currently. We got some information from the state about the new PARC test, which is the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, and we have some testing windows for that. That test will take place at our school April 1st through the 5th, with makeups being that following week. Our day-to-day had to be moved because of all of our cold days. We needed an extension on our benchmarking time for teachers to be able to complete those tests with students, so that will actually be taking place Wednesday of this week. Mrs. Cece is in the middle of access testing all of the 24 students that get access tested in our building. I did attach a breakdown of our instructional minutes. I know that Ms. Heisel had asked about the weights listed in our school report card. That looks a little bit misleading as to the amount of time that we spend on particularly the ELA time. So as I was sitting down doing this, it's kind of difficult to put an exact number on this. So what I did, if you look at those, all of those are a minimum number of minutes, because depending on a student's needs during that flex time, their flex time could be used for math if that's an area of need, their flex time could be used for reading if that's their area of need. So the minutes that I have are a minimum saying certain days with each grade level, they have it dedicated to just math flex time and just reading flex time. So again, the minutes that are listed there are the least number of minutes, but if a student is struggling in the area of reading or math, their individual math or reading minutes will be more that day than someone who isn't struggling in that area, if that makes sense.
Do we know how they decide that on the report card? The number of minutes, where they pull that from? Or is there any way we can look at that and make, make it look like
And I guess I would have to
107 as opposed to?
I would have to talk to Joe about that. I know part of it, Mr. Duncan, sorry, I had to talk to Mr. Duncan about that. I know it has to do with how our classes are coded, and I mean, that would just be a matter of putting in my mind, because it's going to be impossible for me to put those flex minutes in there, because that's just such an individual thing. But I could absolutely put our Wordly Wise minutes in there, even though our Wordly Wise class doesn't take place during our ELA block. Those are minutes that every child is getting the same every week regardless, so I could definitely add, so depending on the grade level, so if you look at third grade, that would be adding an additional 100 minutes a week. That would be ELA time. So I could certainly talk to Mr. Duncan and see again exactly how that's coded and find out how we could change that.
Is handwriting time in there too, like when they're learning cursive? I would think that you could add that. You know what I mean, is that in that ELA block?
I wouldn't really think that would be I mean, we do that, but.
That's not reading, that's writing.
Yeah, and I guess it's not, you're not really, I don't know, I mean, I guess I could find out, how that's coded, because to me, you're not teaching them how to, I shouldn't say how to write, it sounds like how to write when you're teaching handwriting, but you're not teaching them the process and strategy of organizing ideas and, you know, things like that when you're,
Composition.
right, when you're teaching cursive. I guess I would have to find out from the state how that coding would work and if that is one of the things that's allowed to be coded as minutes that way. So I could look into that.
Thank you.
And then the only other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, Wednesday is our family science time. So from 5 to 7, if you guys are free, would like to come on out, please do so. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you for
All
getting
right.
back to us on that.
Thanks.
No problem.
Ms. Black,
Thank
have
you.
you have anybody complaining to you about somebody driving on the sidewalks while kids are being released from school?
Have I in the past?
Recently?
No.
No?
Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. See you Friday.
She's the park presenter.
She has to leave right away.
I don't present it yet, Ms. Gordon.
That they're driving on the sidewalks.
Send her an email.
Sorry.
It's like the art. Did some thorough research to let you know May 21st is the seniors' last day for EQA. Took me a while to figure it out, but I got it done for y'all. So May 21st is the seniors' last day, and then the 22nd through the 24th will be the senior events, field trips, picnics, and things like that. So that, again, the one extra day isn't going to change our graduation or our exam date. Also, to update you on the sports page, the Scholastic Bowl finished first in the RVC this past weekend. Our girls finished second in the regionals last Thursday. And we are still hosting the third of 5 regional events here at the high school. The state is not a fan of us apparently because we are hosting everything. So that's kind of a wrap up of all of our sporting events. I passed around 2 things for you. The first one is a single sheet. Mr. Meyer inspired me last month with his picture of all the wonderful kids having fun. So that is a picture from our students doing the class clash. I cannot say that 3 times fast. That's the best Iowa kids.
I think Mr. Meyer though said something about his school beats your school. I'm not sure if that's true.
Oh, he would never say that to me. No. So they did 5 events. Those are pictures of the various events. And the seniors did end up winning. They're upset with me because they did not win Best Hallway. That went to the freshmen. I don't have pictures of that because for some reason the file format it downloaded in is not.
I thought
Take it down so quickly.
Yeah, it could be the fire marshal. By the way, we managed to clean up every bit of paper in the hallway in 45 minutes, thanks to our.
That best was that big old sharp freshman.
Our staff did a phenomenal
Is
job.
that maybe the last year we're doing that?
We'll just move it
There's
around
gonna be
fire
s-
marshal time.
There's gonna be
Yeah.
some arrangements made by Mr. Gahan moving in today. There still will be decorating, but we're
Just
gonna,
not around the fire marshal time.
Yeah.
I won't say anything negative about the fire marshal.
No.
All right, the 2 big things I wanted to point out to you guys are kind of linked together. What I passed around to you is a fancy dancy little 3-page flyer. This has already been given to Mr. Sarseny, and during the pre-registration process, he's going to be talking with all of our incoming juniors and seniors and sophomores and juniors about the opportunity they're going to have next year. Prairie State has provided us 8 courses. They're right in the middle. They're also attached to your board packet from me of the 8 classes that are going to be offered here from Prairie State for our kids. It is a Prairie State adjunct professor coming down here. They will start at 7:30 in the morning and they'll go all the way through first period. So a student who chooses to do that and take a wonderful opportunity like that will only miss the first period, but it's not even missing because they're still getting that high school credit. I worked with Mr. Duncan and we actually got those all coded and credited for the high school, and so we're all set to go. The one that we're still up in the air about, but I'm not going to change as of now, is the very last class offering, which is World History, because the question is going to be, you know, we offer AP World History, why do we want to double up college offerings? AP World History may or may not still be around because of College Board and the way they're changing things. They're changing the dates that it's covering, so until College Board can give me a good answer, I'm going to make sure that I provide some kind of world history opportunity for college credit from our kids. So that may change in time, so please don't hold me hostage to that one thing. Everything else is just pretty straightforward. They pay Prairie State. Because it's their adjunct professor, they become students of Prairie State, and all those kind of things. So it's really clean on our end. We just basically provide them a classroom, and we get them the students. We need about 10 to 15 students to qualify to make sure it's worth both the professor and ours times. So, like I said, that pre-registration process, which started a few weeks ago with Mr. Sarcini, he already has 2 or 3 kids that he's already pinpointed who know they want to go to Prairie State, and he says, hey, this is an opportunity for you. So we're super excited about that.
Will these courses, have we thought far enough to know, will they have anything to do with the GPA? Like, will they be separate from GPA? Because we're not really in control of the curriculum, we're not in control,
Correct.
I mean, there's not like an honor level anything.
So that is we haven't crossed that bridge yet, because not every class you take has to affect your GPA, so me and Sarcini are still talking about those kind of things. In regards to, I mean, they will get the high school credit for it, but like you said, it's not, just like if a student takes a driver's ed course off campus, they still get recognized, it's on their transcript, but they don't get the GPA bumped from it. So I'm guessing we're gonna do something similar with that.
One thing is, so as we're looking at these, this will be first thing, please look at the choir. I know that's always first period choir.
Oh.
So
they're the ones who, time after time, can't take a Spanish, can't, you know what I mean?
So
somehow balancing the,
To piggyback that, the other thing that you'll notice in my miscellaneous building, I don't know why I call it buildings, but it had nothing to do with building. Part of the pre-registration process is we're doing it in March. Apparently last year they did it in May, which kind of handcuffed what we can do. So by doing it in March, we're actually going to take all of the student wishes, electives, and we are going to make sure that we offer things as best we can across the board, meaning that I'm going to move some of my music classes to the afternoon, because not only is it's KCC, I mean, those kids are missing out on a lot of stuff. The special ed classes are the way they're scheduled right now looks a little different. Our PE classes in the afternoon are ridiculous versus our morning. That also looks, I also put a nugget in there that perhaps down the road, in the next few months, I put out a teacher survey and I put out a student survey about the creation of a possible creation of zero period, giving them an extra period where they can come in the morning and the teacher would provide an extra class. I know out of the survey results I have one core teacher from each one of the 4 main topics and a PE teacher. My inclination is I want to probably get a PE class in there, primarily because if that's the biggest class, if a kid can come in at 7:15, get it out of the way, and then they have 8 solid classes throughout the day, even better.
So you're working around what the students want versus what?
It's a horrible thought, I know.
Right.
I know.
Yes.
And I'd also request, you mentioned about the AP, that I hope we don't just, I guess, take it lying down. I know that the head counselor over at Marian Catholic, is starting stuff like, hey, this is ridiculous. I don't know if you guys are aware, like they're looking at wanting you to pay or at least register your tests up front. And if you decide by November you don't want to take the test, they charge you $40. They're looking at charging you a $40 fee to take out, which is really against the stuff we've talked about so much. Of allowing them that first semester, and maybe if they decide not to, I've talked a whole lot about this in the past, somehow decide, if you're not going to take the test, let's not order the test, that's okay, God bless you, and have something different second semester, but it would get rid of that, there would even be a penalty on top of it.
Okay.
But it looks like guidance counselors are starting to kind of organize and let the college board know this is not cool, and so
Yeah.
I just don't want us to stop, if we can be a part of getting together with the RVC or whatever, and because it's a crappy program. What they're talking about is crappy.
And they sent out a survey to me about a month ago, and with all that included, that's one of my lines is talking about that November thing next year, and they asked my opinion on it, and I politely gave them my opinion on it. I was not for a November payment, just so you know.
So I have a few things. So PE classes, is there a way, I know that, they do have ways we can waive the PE if you're trying to get more academics in.
Yeah, it's in our
Is that
handbook,
something we
yep.
should change? Should we make it a little bit more liberal with being able to waive that? I think we're kind of still
Well, the state still requires 4 years of it, so if we make things too liberal, then it starts looking like, if an audit were to come through and they were to say, hey, let me see why Mike Meyer was exempt. Well, because Mike took 3 really hard, rigorous years of it, and he promised to play basketball. I mean, there's a process. I think there's 3 kids in the first semester, and I think there's going to be 4 in the second semester who are exempted out of it. We have kids who, IEP, oh, Ms. Gordon, you're gone. IEP specific, if they can only attend half day or if they can only attend 4 periods, we still give them a credit for a PE if they go home and they just document, you know, the hours they play in the backyard and things like that. So we do have some leeway with that we are working with, but it's just, when you have 350 kids to get into 8 periods of PE, it's just tough.
Well, here's another thought too, and we've talked about this as a board with our athletes, having that waiver put in,
They have it. It's in there, it's in the handbook.
so we can,
Yep. And so actually, but again, some of the athletes, it's PE, I want to take it. It's time for me to extra. It's not that, it's not, again, I'm not saying, oh, they're jocks, they want PE, but
Right.
there's a reason they're an athlete. They enjoy exercise, they enjoy doing those things. So
Right.
it's,
but Carla
They're
just
not
said
asking for
it's
it.
only available for seniors only, is that
Maybe
true?
junior?
for right now.
For right
Just
now?
senior.
Okay.
Something to think about. So you have all the materials in your packet? You were saying you needed all this material for your new classes? It was like you needed a projector and everything. It was in your packet? You have everything you need to take these, to produce these? It was in your packet.
Are you referring to this? That's from Prairie State, they sent that to me. Is that referring to the Communication 101?
Yes.
Recording? Oh, yeah, we have that capability.
Okay, so you have.
Mr.
oh,
Joe
that's
Duncan's
kinda
one of the
like-
best in
Okay.
the business right now when it comes to recording.
Sociology, we still have a sociology class.
Yes.
Is that something we want to keep if we're offering this
So I've
sociology?
talked to Mr. LeBlanc about that. One of the things we're looking at there is if it becomes a burden on his class, which again, he has 27 students, even if I take away, because those are seniors, if I take away 5, he's still at 22. Or he's open to change it to current events. So Mr. LeBlanc is very open to what we need to do with that class.
Okay, I was thinking philosophy or something, you know, it's only one semester,
Yeah.
yeah. The other thing, wrestling, they're really doing well. Is there any way we
Yeah.
can bring them? I know sometimes they're
Joey
off campus.
Pertusi just made state. He is going down this weekend. Friday, he'll be wrestling. I don't know the time yet, but he just made state. We had 3 young men from the Grant Park Co-op make sectionals, and he's the one that moved on.
Okay. And then the other thing is I'm sure this is open, like you had something in there about the paraprofessional, somebody he was moving to long-term sub.
Yeah.
And how does that affect the do we still?
I was gonna say, I don't see that we're hiring a paraprofessional. Is that your
So
question?
what we'll do is during that time, I've talked to Ms. Weiss at the junior high, and she's going to get a sub in there for as many days as we can. And then I've also been in contact with Ms. Gordon to make sure that the classes that are required to have a student, an adult in there for a student are covered.
So it's all substitute work.
Yeah.
We don't have to do any formal hiring.
Okay. That's all mine. Thank you.
Thanks for looking into that and bringing that to fruition.
Another thing I just thought of, do you know, like the kids that participate in the PFC, will the transcript of them taking those classes, the information of them taking the PFC classes here, will that be on their high school transcript, or would they have to ask for a separate?
So because it's a dual credit class, it will say,
Groovy.
Yeah, like a kid who takes multimedia has it on there as well.
Groovy, thank you.
I had a quick follow-up, Mr. Byer. You can sit.
Oh.
No, a while ago, I had brought up that we discovered there are now some junior high soccer teams in the area. And if we were looking into that or anything, it was told in January there'd be a survey going out to the students to see what their interest was. Has that survey gone out?
Not that I know of. Mr. Ogden is aware of to have a survey come out. I did mention that you brought that to our attention. So I asked all the Can-Will members at a meeting either last month or it was December, and none of those schools are going to participate. So I think you're going north. Is that who that you would
Stager,
play for,
Chicago
say?
Heights,
Yeah.
and they're quite closer than half the ones.
Yep, no,
Ken
I just know
Will.
ours, yeah.
So-
But I believe Mr. Ogden is aware, and I'm hoping that he's putting that together, because I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah, I was told that in
Student interest.
January.
Yep.
to see it. What do you get, bail?
He's on bail. Coward. Are we going to discuss partial reimbursement then?
We can do it now, or we can do it later?
Okay.
Yeah, but that's,
Yeah.
that's at the, it's our very last agenda item.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about now.
Let's do that.
It looked like I went up 0.3% from here.
So then piggybacking off of that, so then the conversation becomes with respect to these dual credit classes. This Prairie State opportunity is a wonderful opportunity for our students. At the same time, if you're looking at a student taking 2 courses in a semester, and each course the tuition is $470, that means if they take both courses in a semester, that's $940. And if they do both semesters, you're looking at almost $2,000. And so if you're going to do 2 years of this, now granted, on the other side of it, you're getting college credit for a very reasonable cost. So then, part of the conversation is, as a district, do we want to do something to help parents along this path? Do we want to incentivize students that maybe wouldn't take the course, or to make sure that they're, putting their best foot forward? One of the first ideas that I would float is something along the lines of, if a student takes a class and gets an A in it, then the district reimburses them 50% of the tuition. If they get a B, it's 25%. And then at the end of the day, that's not a huge fiscal obligation to the district, but it's something that could possibly help families and incentivize students. So I'm really not looking for a decision tonight, but I really think that this is a part of the conversation on whether or not, as an organization, we want to have some sort of a reimbursement model.
Will this funding for the reimbursement be set aside for the PSC, like just say PSC fund, to reimburse, instead of taking it from somewhere,
Like if we put like $10,000
Your market
aside,
from the beginning.
and then,
Yes.
and then just start
I mean,
scooping up
it would
from
be
there.
budgeted for.
Right.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. It will be budgeted for Prairie State
Under
reimbursement.
10 little separate.
Yes.
And I think we need a
Separate
real
line
truth in
item.
advertising about the college credit. I mean, it's even your college credit, but I'm almost positive if you're gonna go to like some Division I school, that they might say, okay, this is really great, you have your intro to sociology class. That just means you get to start on the 200 level intro to sociology class, but you still owe me 4 sociology classes from us. Do you know what I mean? It's not
Okay,
gonna
so that's,
So you think
necessarily.
is it going to be transferable?
We don't know that, that's the thing. So
Right.
if you're going to
But
Prairie
we do.
State, absolutely,
But we
okay,
do.
good. What do we know?
Okay, so that's how it used to be. Okay, now all of the community colleges are on the same page, and so my experiences with Blackhawk Community College, which is just like Prairie State, just on the western side of the state. Okay, and in recent years, we had kids go to private schools like Drake, Rose-Hulman in Indiana, and all of those credits transfer credit for credit. So if a kid shows up here and with us takes 30 credit hours and then goes over to Northern, they literally start as a sophomore.
Okay.
And so I know it didn't used to be that way. It was very hit and miss. The only time that I have not seen this, in my experience, really work in a credit for credit environment is, one time I saw a young man try to immediately go into the engineering program at the University of Illinois. And they said, no, we're not going to accept those. However, if you apply as an at-large student, spend a year, and then come into the engineering program, and that's the route he went, and then all of them transferred in. And so the community colleges and the universities have really done a lot of great work in the last decade to get on the same page and make sure that everything does transfer.
Okay.
And they can look it up online and say, if you go to this school, this class becomes this, or it doesn't become anything. The other question I have is about, don't we still, and you can look it up if you're not sure, free tuition for the first year? Don't we offer that? don't we have a class, a free Prairie State class or something like that? We definitely have some sort of discounts for Prairie State, the first class.
They took one class, yeah, I remember something being said.
That's,
I
Something
think
to
that's,
look up.
I think that's through Prairie State.
That's
That's to
Prairie-
encourage
You
students
mean
to look
going
at
there
them.
first, then coming back here to the high school, right? Because we did that,
Mhm.
because Ben did that, right?
Yeah,
First
that's
class
how
is
Ben
free.
got to enter the electrical engineering program at U of I.
Was the first class free, do you remember? I
Huh?
think, was the first class free?
His
They have some-
first
we can look into it.
semester was free. His first semester.
But he was there. He went to Prairie State.
No,
or he had
he
the
was still a
classes.
student here. He was a junior.
He was a student.
Did he travel
But did he
to
travel to the Prairie
Yeah.
State?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he
That might be the
took some
difference.
classes during the summer.
Right.
And then that following semester, he had to pay, but
So
we
my
didn't care.
question is that first semester that you say is probably free, are they offering that to us here?
no.
No.
No, okay.
No.
Okay.
Wish, but that would be nice.
And that was Prairie State's doing because they wanted
Okay.
the students to keep coming back.
Right.
Well, Ben did go back that summer,
Right.
but we had to pay, and then that following semester. And then I think he might have done something between his first and second, but he was able to enter as a sophomore at U of I.
Fantastic. So how would you like for us to proceed on our end about this reimbursement model?
I think get the ducks in the row and like lay it out money-wise. I always need to see like the hard,
I'm sure that Mr. Gaham can look at the numbers and bring a presentation to the next board meeting on.
We're gonna
what
need it
the
kind of quick,
financials-
especially if classes are gonna come out in March for their
Right.
selection.
Right.
This has gotta roll really quick.
I'm personally a little tentative about what grade you get. I mean, I'd almost rather go, we're gonna cover 20% or something. You know, because those grades get subjective, you know, and if there's sometimes if there's one class, you know, sometimes you have the tough professor who's a great professor, but guess what, a B is a great grade in that class. I don't know, you know what I mean? It just, that's not our control. We're not controlling the grading policy.
Right.
That's Prairie
Right.
State's
Yeah.
business. And
Or
so I don't know how
maybe we
that's gonna
reimburse a
work.
C or above, 25%.
Something a little more reasonable, yeah, I just-
25%.
yeah, yeah,
Something,
yeah.
you know,
Most employers, if you were
A and B.
taking,
C or above, yeah.
it's a C or
It's
above,
got- that's a passing
you get
grade.
reimbursed.
I'm good for
some-
something like that.
Right,
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Something along
Because
those
a D in
lines.
a college course is like, did you really? know?
Maybe if they could give us an estimate of how many students they think are going to participate and what a range of costs would be.
Very good, very good. Much appreciated, appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
School resource officer.
Can I just bring people up to speed about our conversation?
Sure.
That we had on that? Okay, so last month, so I saw the numbers, there was a lot that I was looking at that it was the rate of the increase. There are a couple of things I'm not sure that I was looking at correctly exactly. So some of the numbers that I was putting out, I was looking at some of the total costs. And I had a better understanding now, so I can kind of share some understanding. One of the things we did figure out was that on the old sheet that we were given a few days ago, one of the things that still, when I looked at this, I was having such trouble because there were some errors from the village in there. The numbers in the final year, that 23, 24, were somehow miscalculated. And if you have your old thing, for example, it showed that it was only going up about $100 for the village, but it was gonna go up $7,000.
For us.
Or, I'm sorry, was it 7,000? More like $4,000 for us. I mean, so there were things that clearly were not matching. You looked into it with Mr. Barber and figured out that yes, indeed, there were some bad numbers on the sheet, so those were fixed. So I guess bottom line as I looked at it is, it's a great, I think most of us like the idea of the resource officer, you know, in terms of that. Then it becomes a matter of the negotiating. And so as the way I understand it, you know, the 10% raise the first year and 6, 6, 6, and then 2 down the line, I looked at that, was very surprised that's what it was, but the more I understand, it seems to be that's what it is, I guess. And it looks like bottom line, and some of the questions I had were, for example, that says 3-month out of school plus difference. I wasn't really sure what that meant. I'm looking at the under village cost. So I wasn't sure, like, were we paying all of the, like, were they just taking the salary or were they taking salary and benefits? And bottom line, it looks like we keep seeing the total cost, and basically the village is taking 25%, we're taking 75%. Give or take a few percentage points in any one given year. Is that about right? Like they're covering 3 months and we're covering 9 months? And that's kind of the way it's prorated?
I
minus a few incidentals?
I believe the school is about 67% and the village is about 33%.
That is what I calculated. There's a still, I don't
Okay.
want to stop you.
Okay, well, no, so that was part of it. Just, there were some numbers, looked at that. I get a better understanding of those numbers there. I do have some questions in terms of, you know, and I think if I looked around the table and got head nods, I think we generally like the idea of the resource officer. I don't know if there's still things that have to do with negotiating. I'm not sure that this is the best place necessarily to have the negotiations, partly because there's no one from the village representing here. You know what I mean? If it's something that wants to go to a vote tonight, and it does go to a vote tonight, so be it. But I sometimes, but you know, he's also not the money guy. You know what I mean? But you're not Mr. Barber and doing negotiations. You know, you don't speak for your board, I don't speak for mine.
I'm not Mr. Barber.
He's not representing.
But I do think there might be some negotiating type things that if there was just a couple of us from the board and here and a couple of the board and people just negotiated it. Because I don't know what the village did tonight, I don't know what we did, but anyway, so I wouldn't be against waiting it, but I think we like the idea of it. I understand a little more about the numbers now. I'm calmed down a little on those, you know, and
Those
so
are
I
still-
just wanted to kind of put
From
that out
tonight,
there.
Todd?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what the board did?
Yes, we passed it unanimously.
Thank you.
There are still some, they don't add up. So, and I can pass them around if you want, so that confuses me. When you look at the total cost for the village and the total cost for the, that we would pay, it doesn't equal the total cost for the program. They're off.
That's when you help the blonde
So,
out.
so Carla, so if you look at
You
the
help me.
total cost, which is about a third of the way down, in year one, it's
Yeah.
82,000
Right.
something, okay? That's the salary and benefits of the position, okay? The school's 67 point whatever % of that is represented as the school cost of 55,714.
Right.
The village's portion of that is about the fourth line from the bottom, which is 26,592. You add those two numbers together, you get the 82,306. That's salary and benefits of the position with the addition of uniform and equipment of $900, which is split on a prorated portion. The costs at the bottom are the costs that the village has agreed to take on, not on a prorated portion. So in year one, the initial uniform and equipment of $2,000, the 12-hour shift differential and training costs, the village is not asking the school for a prorated share of that. So then if you add the 4 village costs together at the bottom, that's how they get their 29,655.
So that number is added, this 3-month out-of-school difference equals, I was wondering where they came up with that number. So then that number plus the 8 hours a day times 176, that equals 82,306?
Perfect. Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Yes, I had to ask the same thing.
Because they weren't equaling.
No.
And then there might
And
be
I-
some transposition of numbers on the first year. That would be the only one. 4,597 is the bill per month, and then if you multiply that out, it doesn't equal 8 hours a day times 176. It equals, not the number that they gave you is 55,714, it's 55,174. Maybe they transposed those numbers or something?
So the monthly school reimbursement should be whatever the school's portion is divided by 12.
Right, but it doesn't equal that for the first one. For the first year, it's, I think there's some transposition in there. There's,
Carla, what was your concern?
This number.
Well, he told me where those numbers were coming, and I think they just
says
transposed the
it's
numbers in the
170.
first year. If you multiply $4,597.83 times 12, it equals $55,174, and not $55,714.
Why would you do it by 12?
12 months?
No, it's billed per month from the year, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
It's still a 12-month pay, even though it might be 9-month pay.
And the other ones equaled out.
It also looks like, am I wrong that it looks like the uniform is being paid for twice? I see uniforms and equipment of $900 a year under the total cost, but then I also see a listed separate item under village cost for $750 a year.
Oh, that is listed twice.
Is that being double counted somehow?
It's that there is a portion of that the village is willing to.
Is picking up?
Yes, picking up 100% of it, correct.
So the uniforms and costs are, like the first year is 2,000 plus 900.
Correct.
That's why it's 2,900 the first year, and then it's a
Right.
little bit different the second year.
But out of that 2,900, the school only pays about 6.
And you also clarify that start date?
So this is.
It's weird, because everything here says May 1st. And I'm
So-
thinking academic year, and if for some reason we decided we've done this for 5 years and we're done, it makes it sound like we're ending the contract on May 1st rather than getting a full academic year out of it. We're about to start paying during the months that the resource officer would potentially be not assigned to the buildings.
So this person is going to need to be hired, trained, brought up to speed with not only what the school needs, but what the village needs, and then start working for the village over the summer. And so that's not a immediate process. SRO training is very specific training.
As well as juvenile officer. This is he has to be trained initially as a police officer, then he has to be trained as a juvenile officer.
Or she.
He or she, and then they have
As an
to,
SRO.
then they also have to be trained as an SRO. And it's all certifications. So it's a very specialty position.
So this person works 8 hours and then works 4 hours every day for the village?
No.
No,
No.
What is the 12-hour shift at?
They would be 8 hours here, and then I believe on Monday through Thursday, then they have a half an hour assignment to end their day with the village.
I didn't know what that 12-hour shift differential meant either then.
I have no idea, but we're not paying it.
Okay. And they work all summer then? I didn't know how many days they work. So it went from 186 and then we're going to 176?
They're a full-time employee of the village.
Which is
They
whatever
work, they work
days.
for us 176 days.
the rest of the time, they work for the village.
And they're not working 4 hours after school. I mean, that's, because I thought maybe that's what they were planning.
What they do after the school hour doesn't concern
No.
us then.
Well, it would if they're putting in 12-hour days.
They're assigned to the school.
No,
They're
they're
assigned
assigned to
to the
the
school.
school.
This
After
is
the
their
school
hours
ends,
This is it.
we're done.
And the nitty-gritty of the schedule and what teachers, I think you raised a great point last week, about, well, junior high needs something. We saw the reports today, there's 12 days of suspension at the junior high, and there weren't any at the high school, and so we need to.
But the kids can't know what that schedule is. It can't be a set schedule.
No.
Well, no.
So
No.
I'd like to see all the particulars about that. And how will they, I'd like to see the particulars of that so that,
Of where they're gonna divide up their time,
yeah, but it can't be a set schedule because,
it's gotta be always different,
yeah.
It has to be random, yes.
right?
Has to be at the point of need. What building, if you're having issues there, that he could be there, but.
But
He'll assess that with, once you get him in place,
Right.
he'll assess that with the administration.
So, say the officers over at the junior high, and we have a drug issue and a fight issue here. They'll leave junior high and come here. All right.
Obviously, yes. Well, I think it's a very fair,
And quoting, not to
Yes,
interrupt,
go ahead.
President, they will have a squad that they,
yes.
So are you saying if somebody were sick, we'd have a substitute? Is that what, I was wondering about, or if they're called away, or if we get 8 hours, do we get 8 hours if Mr. Smith is sick that day? We get somebody else coming over?
I don't believe that there would be somebody here if they're ill, no.
And they get somebody's sick days.
They get so many sick days, but it equals 176 days, which is the school year.
We started at 186, we subtracted 10 days in our last negotiation,
Right.
bringing sick days, things like that. That's why we took 10 days away.
Okay.
Last time we sat down, in case there was a sick day in school or something. If you guys haven't needed a school, and the SRO wasn't there, we'll get you an officer. I mean, if that's the hang-up,
Well,
try
we're
to
just
say.
asking.
No, where's it?
Yeah,
Where's it?
I get it. But if something happens and our SRO's in school, sick, whatever, and you need an officer, we'll get you somebody.
Well,
Yeah,
obviously.
this really doesn't replace the amazing relationship that
Right.
the district already has with the village police department. That's going to continue the way it's always been.
you will see police officers stop in and see the SRO. There will be police throughout the district.
Todd, I don't know if you know this, but the increase in salary year over year, is that in their current contract?
They currently have a 4-year collective bargaining agreement.
Okay.
That's where the hours come in also. They earn guaranteed
Because we're in this is a 5-year contract though.
Yes. That last year is an assumption. All we can do is an assumption. If you guys agree to the CBA, the way it's written, I'm sorry, not CBA, the IGA, the way it's written, your costs are what's out there.
Right.
If something changes, the village eats it. If there's overtime to be spent, we're not coming to you saying, well, this officer had to work 5 hours overtime this week, we need more money. That's on our.
Okay.
So those are our numbers at the bottom. That's from everything we've talked about, it's a good estimate that we know of from the village. But anything extra is on us, not. This is signed, these are your numbers. Ours, if they go up, then that's on us. It's not on you guys, right? You're coming back.
And our numbers are not that 8 hours a day times 176. Our numbers are that bill per month, which doesn't equal quite the 8 hours a day, but that's not the number we have to worry about.
I don't know what's in front of you. The one I have on my phone, I just did the math 12 times the number I have monthly, and it equals 5880. I don't know what you guys have in front of you. Maybe it's-
5880?
There's more than one draft of this.
Equal 5880, I don't have that number. I have 55714.
And if we hired like a 15-year veteran of the Chicago Police Department, the numbers stay the same?
Correct. So who the village hires is the village's purview. So if they end up hiring somebody that is a more expensive employee that graces our door, these
That's
are
on
our
them.
costs.
That's on them.
I had a very good question. In the contract, it said why, and I didn't know why, it said they would avoid regularly assigned details such as hallway or lunchroom. I would think that would be the time that they would be wanted in the halls and.
Or is that maybe like
That's
detail?
hallway or lunchroom duty.
So
That's
we're not
their
going
duty.
to assign them to a lunchroom. If they need
No,
to
I don't
go
want them in the
in,
lunchroom. I'm thinking the halls.
if they need to go in and form relationships and have conversations with kids, that's what they're free to do. That's what that's saying is, we're not going to tie them to a specific schedule, that they have 1B lunch at the junior high. Not that you have a 1B.
I'll be there, don't worry.
Good to go.
Let's spell it.
It'll be in Mike's office waiting for the water to fall.
And then there was something that seemed a little, that it conflicted. It said, they take action as a law enforcement officer for crimes, and there is officer discretion when issuing local ordinance citation, and then it said, but they refrain from functioning as a school disciplinarian.
The school still has the right to discipline the student. The police officer will handle it if it's a criminal matter. But anybody here knows that.
If a fight breaks.
Give me one second, Jen.
Right.
You don't want to always, if a kid does something that's criminal, I mean, if it's not a physical aggression or something like that, you don't want to systemize them. So that Mr. Ogden would still handle it. But if it was something that needed to be dealt with on a criminal matter and referred to court, or station adjustment, station adjustment is that they have to be home by 7 o'clock, something like that. That's how that works. You know, the first step should always be to let the school handle it, but if it's a physical aggression, then I understand where the police are involved, but, you know, we should let the
Help
school
secure
discipline
the
their children.
building.
Yeah, or
But
secure
might
the
they
building.
issue a $75 citation for disturbing the peace if there were a fight?
It's a court date. And, you know, what you want to do, for me, if I don't want to see every kid go through the system, so.
I mean, I know when I worked in foster care, I had to go with a couple of my foster kids to court because they got a $75 ticket because they got in a fight in school. You know, that was just what they did. They wrote them a ticket for disturbing the peace.
I'm just telling you from what I read, and from my experience, that's what it is.
So that's your interpretation?
Yes.
Another great question. Last week, they just had an incident in the Chicago Public Schools about, I'm not sure what his role was, but he used a taser on a student. Do they have tasers, or?
I can't answer that question, that's something for the chief.
I would assume he's on.
I would say, he's
But-
an officer, he would be on duty and
He
he
has
would be.
tasers and guns, or?
He would be.
Hope so.
If someone from the outside comes
Hope
in,
he
I
is.
guess you probably want to.
Yeah, I'm sure the previous SRO was.
And they all carry tasers.
I honestly don't know that.
I've seen an SRO take out the bot. What do you call it,
If it's
stick,
fast,
and
it's
wrap
on-
between the legs and, yeah.
But there's policy, there's
extended.
also a
Yes.
policy.
But I'm sure the
that
previous
says what they
SRO was
cannot do.
equipped, let's put it that way.
Just fully equipped.
Yep.
I think it's something we should move forward on. I just think that, I want to make sure that whoever we hire spends equal time getting to know all three schools and not just dedicated. I want him to be well-known, or him or her be well-known in all three schools. Same amount of time, you know, doing different programs for DARE, for elementary, bullying for junior high, and, you know, stuff like that, not just dedicated more for the high school.
And I just ask that we bring somebody in that has the proper attitude to get along with our staff, our students, from the janitor to the superintendent.
Would we be involved in the hiring process, on listening in on interviews, or?
I think that we will be a resource
Okay.
during this process.
Okay.
And I know very much that Chief Smith very much wants to seek our input to make sure that this is the right person, that it is going to be a productive
Good.
hire.
I'm on the line with Paul. This is needed.
Okay, I'll move that we accept it and
Vote on it.
we accept the intergovernmental
You need a motion?
agreement. I just made the motion. I need a second.
A second.
Scrumanti?
Yes.
Mazurk?
Due to the conflict, because I do work for the village, I'm going to sustain from voting.
Herman?
Yes.
Yeah,
Weissel?
sorry.
Yes.
Paulmeyer?
Yes.
Palmisano?
Yes.
Goldrick?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
My God's not over with this, but thank you.
Moving right along, we have bids for the roof.
So this is a similar process to what we did last year. This is really a part of, we need to continue to have a process and a set of rotations to systematically address our facility issues. So this particular roof is this long main hallway right here, that especially the west end tends to leak at times. And so very, very pleased at the bid process. Mr. Stanula thought that the price would be about $270,000. I thought maybe we'd get by for $250,000, and our low bid came in at $198,000. So very excited.
And this is a person we've used before.
Yes, this is a firm that has done work for us before. And like all firms, they have to pay prevailing wage.
Good.
How many bids came in? Three?
Three.
Three.
There's no reason we wouldn't take the lowest bid. It's fine. I feel comfortable with
Did that,
Did the bidding process change? I mean, just because three bids, I mean, there are so many times that one bid comes in and we're just stuck, so to speak.
I can't speak to what's happened before I was here.
Right.
I do know that since, at other times, there had been one bid, and quite honestly, I wasn't, I would not have been comfortable bringing this with just one bid. And so, Mr. Stunel and I went to great lengths to make sure that we had multiple firms who actually did get interested enough to make a bid, to put a bid in, so.
Got it.
Very good.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mazurk?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Weisel?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Palmasano?
Yes.
Goldberg?
Yes.
Skrmendi?
yes,
Motion carried.
When will this start, by the way?
It'll be a summer project.
Summer project, okay. Typical, okay.
Because they have to rip it off.
Right.
Are we going to discuss the bus, or we tabling that for now? or what?
We can either start the conversation now, or we can, I know we're most likely gonna have a committee meeting, in a couple weeks. We can have it be part of that conversation,
I
whatever.
prefer to move it to a committee of the whole.
Okay.
Fine, perfect.
Can we get a few more
You do.
bids then, before that? Because we only have one bid? it looks
So the
like?
problem
Was
with.
there only one?
So the,
It's three pamphlets.
so
No.
we didn't get an international bid. All we got was a Bluebird bid. And so,
Everybody likes birds.
So there's no other bids we can get then?
I'll do what I can to try to get another Bluebird bid, especially because quite frankly, I think they're better buses. So
Oh.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, moving to the farm annexation.
Am I understanding it right? Actually, I had someone else explain it to me, and the first time I thought, that's what you mean. So it's still ours, we're still taking rent on it and everything else, we're simply making it a part of the TIF if someone wants to buy it someday.
We're making it a part of
the village.
The village.
Right.
It will
Okay.
be, instead of being in unincorporated Will County, it's now part of the
Village.
village of Beecher.
Yes.
It's gonna be in
Okay.
the village.
Now, the second part of that conversation is, the village is pursuing forming a TIF that would then, once annexed in, would include the farm, which would be a tremendous benefit for the school, because then that would put us as one of, if not the largest landowner at the table, being able to vote and make
Right.
decisions on TIF.
So we're
issues.
still collecting rent in the meantime,
Everything's the same.
and someone would have to actually buy it from the school district.
What it is
Well,
instead
We're
of
never,
Will County.
no, this has nothing to do with selling.
No.
We're
No,
not
no, no, I mean,
selling.
if it became part of the TIF, and let's just say Amazon builds another building out there, Amazon needs to buy it from us.
If
Well, yeah.
if we decided
Okay.
to
It's
sell
ours.
it.
The village doesn't
We're
own
not
it.
giving away the farm, so to
No.
speak. Okay, all right. Was that the setup? I tell
It
you.
just goes from Will County to Beecher
Okay.
now.
Right.
That's all.
but
I'm good then, okay,
there are stipulations on what that can be used for.
right.
So Amazon can't have it.
Well, he was just.
What,
Yeah.
I don't know that there are stipulations anymore, right? Are you talking about that it was donated?
No, the land,
What it can be used for.
yes.
If it was going to be,
It doesn't
I don't know
matter
what you're
if
talking
it's in the Will County or
The
in the
original
village of
donation
Beecher.
had stipulations.
There are stipulations.
But I don't know
when it
what
was
they are.
originally donated.
But that's expired. That's what, I was under the impression that that
I
had
don't think that ever
expired.
expired.
What?
But
I thought that expired. I thought
No.
that Ms. Held said it's
It's
expired.
It's
Line
expired.
trusts never expire.
What?
The provision in the trust expires.
There was a time limit.
Not last time I looked. When is that then?
We believe that the provision expired in 1990. We can double check for that.
Okay.
Okay. In any case,
Tooth
back
and
to
nail
the
then.
annexation motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Herman?
Yes.
Weissel?
Yes.
Ballmeyer?
Yes.
Palmisano?
Yes.
Goldberg?
Yes.
Scrementi?
Yes.
Mazurik?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Off campus we handled. Okay, part-time art teaching position.
Certainly. So this is something that we've talked about before. I know that we wanted to, I got feedback from the board members that they would like to grade the position first and have that finalized before we move forward and fill it. So as I alluded to before, this would be a position that would, in a very cost-effective manner, increase opportunities and quality of art opportunities in every building. And so that's something that we're very excited about.
Any questions?
Yeah, do we have the duties outlined?
So I don't think that we have, I think we have a pretty good idea of what we would like to see if we have additional art help. I think Mrs. Black is having conversations about the possibility of expanding art opportunities for first graders and kindergartners.
For first graders and what?
And kindergartners.
Kindergartners?
I think that Mr. Meyer is having conversations about the opportunity of expanding art opportunities in 8th grade. And I believe that Mr. Gam is having conversations about, you have 1 art period or 2 art periods now? Adding an additional art period and also being able to shift it a little bit later in the day, which would be able to increase some student flexibility in scheduling.
Would Ms.
Kindergartners in their class? Or sitting on the same seats that a 5th grader would sit on?
Yeah, in the art room, the same way they do for computer class and music and all the other specials that they.
99.9% of the time will be spent on cleanup.
Is there any talk about being in a certain school? When Ms. Bluen came here about a year ago or whatever, and she explained her duties and some of the struggles she was having, a lot of it had to do with take up and set down and, whatever I meant to say.
Yeah.
But, I mean, all the cleanup back and forth. If you wanted
Cleanup.
45 minutes, you really only got half an hour by the time you were
Yeah.
doing stuff. So we're talking about adding classes, but was anything going to be like, hey, the part-time person is the junior high, we got 3 grades, and she goes between the other 2. At least that way it takes care of some of that.
I think that's a possibility.
Okay.
So this still would be a part-time position then?
Correct.
By like mornings or like certain days? What's the vision?
Every day. So
Okay,
this
so
is
still
somebody-
every day for a
This
period,
is somebody
okay.
who would be on campus every day, yes.
Like mornings? Is that what you mean? Or-
Okay.
Or whenever the need. If they're putting afternoon art classes, then it would be in the afternoon.
That would just be like an hourly employee then, at those kind of?
No, they would be a
hours?
certified teacher, so it would be on our teacher salary schedule.
But no benefits? They don't receive benefits as a part-time?
That's what.
Depends on the person you hire, what the benefit package is like.
Isn't over
I don't know
$1,000.
what you mean.
No, it would be,
IMRF is
no,
over $1,000.
it would, this would be a TRS position and it would be under 600.
I did wonder on the position, and maybe this is the place to start, I don't know, but like if we were ever talking about additional RTI, additional intervention, something, so rather than hiring 2 people at 30, do you hire 1 person at 45 all day? You know what I mean? Like, is there anything like, could this half-time position be a full-time position where that person is a full-time sub so they can have IEP meetings? And then that afternoon, is there some way to, would this ever be, or a full-time position? I'm just thinking, well, that might be cheaper, especially if we're gonna give benefits to someone who's part-time. That might be cheaper, just
I'm
having
not-
1 person.
I'm not anticipating giving benefits. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I'm not anticipating that.
Okay.
I realized I wasn't clear. I meant benefits, health benefits. I'm sure they're still going to get, they wouldn't get like medical benefits and that's what I meant.
'Cause when I said hourly
That's what I
employee,
meant
you
for
said no.
benefits. There's lots of different
No,
things.
it wouldn't be,
that's what I
no,
thought
it would
too.
be somebody who is
But there's like a
subject to the teacher contract.
That's my question. I mean, she
I'm just saying that in
asked-
general.
I don't, what is the answer? She's asking me.
What's the question?
A part-time employee, will they be able to receive medical benefits?
Yes.
Okay.
If
If they request it.
If they request it, okay, so they are eligible.
If that's part of the package.
Their
that they-
package.
Is that prorated then, or something like that?
Actually, it's not,
No.
according to the teacher's contract. Part-time teachers receive full health benefits.
That's where part of me thinks,
What?
do you
I
find
didn't
someone
know
who
that.
could do more? Maybe use all day rather than hire a second person, another set of benefits. Could you get someone all day who could be art and, you know?
Or you find somebody who's retired and doesn't need those. He already has them somewhere else.
It's like I said, I work part-time in another place. I work 2 part-times and I don't get benefits. I mean, I certainly get IMRF, but I don't get like medical or healthcare benefits there. So that's kind of what I was assuming, that we don't offer medical benefits, but maybe that's part of the contract that I'm not aware of.
It's part of the contract, yes. Full and part-time. I need a motion to create a position of part-time art teacher.
So moved.
Second?
Weisel,
Yes?
Paulmeyer,
Yes.
Palmisano,
Yes.
Goldrick,
Yes.
Scramenti.
Yes, with huge reservations.
Mazurik,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, we're going to move into new business. No, we're going to skip over, we'll do that last. Employment, Kara Graham as a volunteer for high school girls soccer. I need a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Goldrick,
Yes.
Scramenti,
Yes.
Mazurik.
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Weisel,
Yes?
Paulmeyer,
Yes.
Palmisano,
Yes.
motion carried.
Jillian Rowe as high school girls track coach.
So moved.
Second.
Scramenti,
Yes.
Mazurik,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Weisel,
Yes.
Paulmeyer,
Yes.
Palmisano,
Yes.
Goldrick,
Yes.
motion carried.
And Granisey as junior high track coach.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Karen beat me.
Mazurik,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Weisel,
Yes?
Paulmeyer,
Yes.
Palmisano,
Yes.
Goldrick,
Yes.
Scramenti,
Yes.
motion carried.
Can you tell us anything about Scott?
What? Scott?
This is Scott Austin?
I wouldn't in open session.
Oh,
So
okay.
can we go into executive session for the last 3 then? 4, 5, and 6? And B?
Okay.
I don't know this.
School calendar, do we have it?
Sure do.
That was in, it's on.
It's in,
Oh, it's in here.
it's in the packet, yeah.
I didn't know in the past if the board had actually had a motion on the school calendar. I mean, technically it does, technically
Yeah.
it's an information item.
I know we approved it.
Yeah.
I think we
So-
did approve it, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect, that's why I put it in there.
Okay. I need a
Are you-
motion.
I
you
had
looking-
questions about the
Oh.
calendar.
Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead.
so sorry. Are you looking, because what the previous superintendent did was pull it up, do it 3 years in
Yeah.
advance.
Yes.
Are you looking at it, just doing it yearly, or are you planning to do like a 3-year?
Not doing a 3-year.
Plan.
Okay, so the game plan is that in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will develop a tentative next year's calendar. So what we're talking about tonight is 1920,
Yep.
and then hopefully by the March meeting, I will bring a tentative 2021.
Okay.
So that way we have something on the books if somebody is going to plan a trip to Disney and they need it 18 months out, they have something to look at. But at the same point in time, we put tentative on the top of it. And that way, if for some reason we don't like the way we did parent-teacher conferences this year, and then when the committee comes back together, they say, hey, let's change this, we want to tweak these couple things, then we still have the ability to do that. And so you try to do those multiple year calendars to try to give the 20 families who are going to go to Europe or go to Disney, perhaps an amazing something where they have to plan that far out in advance, but we're going to retain that right to be able to tweak some things like that at a later
Got it.
date.
So I guess I wasn't here for the last calendar meeting. I thought that was done in committee. I seem to remember it. But people have spent like years complaining about the middle of the day institutes. And now it looks like you've got them all there. I don't see a, that's kind of, there's like 3 of them in there where it's like the middle of the week. They're going to get out at, on a Wednesday, March 11th, 2020. 11 o'clock on a Wednesday. Is there some reason that they're not doing them on Fridays?
Be careful.
Typically, so we have those days so we can do teacher training. So we can have collaborative time and we can make our staff better. In my experience, those tend not to be effective on Friday, as effective on Friday afternoon.
I can answer that. Jeff did change them from Fridays to Mondays because when Fridays were a half a day, there would be so many students gone for the whole day. That's why he changed it to Mondays.
And I wouldn't speak for the staff here, but I agree, that's what I've seen.
Yeah, and that's not a knock on anybody.
It's-
That's
Right, and
human
that's
nature.
just
We're
human nature,
all,
right.
by Friday afternoon, we've all put in a hard week. We're ready to go. spend
Thursday,
time with
I'm
our
done. We're going out for the
families.
weekend.
I'm
And if you
Yep.
incorporate something on Monday,
You're
you're much more
gonna be in
likely
that
to
same
do it
boat.
Tuesday morning
Yep.
than you are Monday the following.
I get it.
I'm just not sure if that's kind of, it was just so much complaining that I heard.
Complaining on,
Just not sure.
complaining on what?
People wanted it on Fridays back again. They couldn't.
And it might be because they want to go live.
It
Maybe
was
they had
just-
stuff to do.
Yeah.
You need
they
a
had
motion
stuff
to
do.
accept.
Well,
Well,
then,
this was already worked out with the,
Yeah, this
That
is,
was- yeah.
yeah, this is done. By contract, this is
Yeah.
done. I mean, there is no, right.
By contract, this is done? What do you mean?
this was worked out with the
Yeah,
teachers.
I remember
already.
that was a question I had a few years ago, like,
yeah,
I was like, the
Oh.
teachers want to work on December 23rd? And they said, yes. I said,
Yes, they do.
yes, they
"Okay."
did. And
You know,
that's
so
that's what
I
they wanted.
But I remember that was my question at the time.
Yes,
So I knew that the teacher said, okay, the teacher, I said, okay.
yes, they wanted to work till the end and get that first full week in January off.
Yep.
Oh, so this isn't even a.
So, yeah, so
real
the
vote.
faculty's already had their say and they've all,
Oh.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I need a motion though.
I make a motion to accept the calendar.
Second.
I love the Christmas and Easter breaks on this one.
Okay. Scrumenti?
Oh, yes.
Mazurk?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Weissel?
Yes.
Hallmeyer?
Yes.
Palmazano?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, you.
Okay, yeah, let's move to the board policy for the sections 5 and 6, the first reading. You have them in your packet. I need a motion.
I didn't see any changes when there wasn't, I went through all those. Are there any changes we're making, or?
Nothing of any major importance from the ones that we already had. This is just updating according to the press policies that take into account any changes in the current laws. And so, you know, one of the things that we might want to do is spend a little time at the committee of the whole meeting and make sure that, because there are some pieces in there that talk about the educational philosophies of the district and the board, and make sure that those are lined up with the work that the board has already done on that.
I felt like the FMLA information was probably outdated too, whatever that was in there. I think it was laying out like specific things that I don't know that we could lay out. So it's just something to look at. I felt like that. Just to update with the laws is what I'm saying. I'm not sure. You were saying to update with the laws. I just felt like that would be an area we maybe wasn't current. I just wish that they would just.
Well, that's what the press, you know, we subscribe to the press, which is the attorneys tell us what the new changes are,
And then-
and we incorporate those.
It doesn't have to be now. There's that one line on page 100, I just don't know what it means. It was about the minority recruitment and that you should go to colleges and you should try to make sure you've included as many colleges as you can. Once you're in, there's no real preference, but you've gotten a good pool. But it says this policy, however, does not require or permit the district to give preferential treatment or special rights based on a protected status, okay, without evidence of past discrimination. I don't know what that means, the without evidence of past discrimination. We'd love to talk about it now, I mean, if there's another reading, but I'd love to know what that actually means.
Okay.
Sounds like legal speak to me.
Yeah.
I need a motion, however, for the first reading.
So moved.
A second.
Scramenti?
Yes.
Mazurik?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Weissel?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Palmisano?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. We can move items D, E, F, H, I, and J to a committee of the whole, or if you have any specific questions on any of them.
F, I do.
J.
Okay.
F, we are here, we are taking children and that are victims of fights. Victims. I'm not talking the aggressor, I'm talking victims. And I know this is gonna speak, I'm coming from the law enforcement perspective, but when we go to a fight, we don't hook both of you. We take the aggressor and the victim presses charges. I just don't understand, I understand the zero tolerance policy, but we're punishing a victim twice because we're told not to defend ourselves, basically what you're saying. Okay, so what are they supposed to do, turtle up? That's one. Two, if they fight back and defend themselves, they're still getting suspended.
Yep.
The third one is they're still taking a suspension for being the victim. I just don't understand that, and I've been asking for that since
Had that problem for years.
second year that I've been here. And it seems like other board members that bring this up, nothing ever gets taken care of. Under McCartney, I've asked for this.
Yep.
Mr. Cox has brought it here. The policy has to be changed, board. We cannot victimize a victim twice. I mean, if he, after he's grabbed by security, whoever, teachers, and he strikes a teacher, then yes, I understand. But to victimize the victim twice, it's not good. So I ask, I know we can't do it here, but at the next board meeting, we change that rule. Because
Well, I think it needs to go into committee to be studied. I mean, the one problem you're going to run into is proving who's the aggressor and who isn't.
how many cameras do we have, Larry?
I will tell you from personal experience,
Let's talk about it.
from my children, when my kids attacked, he fought back. Got suspended, never disciplined at home, because we're not raising a coward, and we're raising him. You don't do the first punch, you do the last, because there's no way.
And I will.
I've been this rodeo before.
Yes, I've been down
Me
this
too.
rodeo.
And I don't like it.
My son was
at all.
attacked in the lunchroom, and Mr. Schillen and Mr. McCord, I believe, stated it. After he was struck, he didn't provoke it. If he'd have got him, they felt sorry for this aggressor. But my son had to sit 3 days in this library, in in-school suspension. When I brought it up, I was told, well, that's our rule. No, it's not correct. It's wrong. If that's how you guys want to use this punishment, that's not good.
Yeah, and zero tolerance is stupid.
So Larry, you want to study it, you can study it 100 times, but here's the situation, Larry. You were law enforcement, okay? You know you don't arrest both. So how are you gonna bring it back to school? The kid could be sitting in his class doing his work, and this kid might have something against him, not even play.
You arrest both if you can't prove who's the aggressor and who isn't. And
But
once,
if you
and
have
once,
witnesses that will tell you.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why
Johnny's
we have,
sitting
now
there-
we have a school
Johnny's sitting
resource
there minding his
officer.
own business.
And now we have a
and
dean
also,
and a
if-
principal.
and also, if that person who's struck escalates it, they actually get a worse penalty in the law.
Pull it up, Larry. Pull
I
up
have,
pull up battery for me, Larry. How long you been retired, sir?
Since 69,
From 6.
from the first one.
I'm still
working in law enforcement.
Well, right, but you're not working on that end. I don't understand, Larry, where you.
It hasn't changed. I work for the state's attorney's office.
Oh, that's fine. I'm
and
not here
it's
to.
a rule.
Larry, as the president, though, you should be more open to other board members' opinions.
I just said we would take it to committee, so everyone's opinion can be expressed.
Thank you, President.
How about the visitor security system? Do we have an update?
The bill you paid tonight, and I believe the last email I saw from Mr. Duncan is we're looking at a March install. So we were able to vet through and make sure that we had the correct system that we wanted.
Still Raptor?
It is still Raptor.
Okay.
It is still Raptor, but we were able to take a long look at another one as well that one of our neighbors had gone to and really liked. And so we wanted to make sure that we were getting the system that we wanted for the best cost and value. And so, moving forward.
Very good.
That'll definitely be one of those blog things. PTO coming in like, wait, what? You know,
They'll get a
you have
pass with
to,
their picture on
they
it.
need to be
That's
ready
all.
to do that. It'll
They all gotta be ready.
be, yeah. Now, once you've done it once, that's a nice thing. You know, you show your
Right.
driver's license and it actually knows your picture already. That's the beautiful, it'll print you out a badge just so you know
Great.
your name.
I want an eye scanner.
All right, if you're in agreement, we'll move the other items to the committee of the whole.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need a motion to go in executive session.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Second?
Yeah.
Karen had one. We had three of us
Yeah.
in one way, shape, or form. You pick.
Pick somebody, Mark.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.